Are you guys excited? I'm delighted. This is so good. So today we're going to be talking about a new legendary spoiled by Scarlatch, Inquisitor Makto, and talking about mechanics meeting flavor in just fantastic sense. Like, there is nothing more fun than being able to, in an online card game, put something like Makto's Revenge Never Ends on a card. I just cannot tell you how great that is. Let's go ahead and move that up to the top so that it shows up next time. Thanks for the follow, by the way. So today we're talking about Inquisitor Makto. Inquisitor Makto is a 5/5 for 5 with flying. Like, right away that stat line should be really appeasing, because first off, that means that you are getting like not only a really decent body for a fairly cheap cost, you're also getting something that is capable of coming back from the void later on and giving you another free card worth of advantage. Because it has that revenge ability, which gives it the destiny function, and also it's just like one of the like higher powered revenge cards that we've seen. High powered revenge cards are generally better than low powered revenge cards, because while you're going to have to seek them out, you just get a lot more value for your buck on the destiny effect when you actually get them. So high powered revenge cards are cards you run in decks that run things like Scheme, run things like Quarry, run anything where you can actually dig into your deck and trigger that revenge earlier, because you generally want to be able to pick this card up and then get a free card as a result. But right away, a 5/5 stat line for 5 is not bad, especially on a flyer. Like, on a flyer in particular is the important part. 5/5 is just above pretty much all of the things that you're really worried about in the air. It does not die to really anything in the air apart from like Thunderstrike Dragon. It obviously has that issue of Sandstorm Titan, which is something that you have to pay attention to be sure, but you're in Argenport colors. So Sandstorm Titan is the least of your worries. Argenport colors are running Vanquish, they are running Rapid Shot, they are running Finest Hour, they are running Victor's Cry, they're running lots of lifesteal, they're running lots of weapons. There's so many different effects in Argenport that allow you to get through Sandstorm Titan that Inquisitor Makto's inability to get by Sandstorm Titan is not its specific weakness. If it ends up trading with a big 6/6 while Sandstorm Titan is down, that's not the funnest thing, but nonetheless, this card is pretty solid. Okay, also this card is an Inquisitor and a Valkyrie, so there's a little bit of storyline flavor for you. We know that Roland's Valkyries are now doing fun and terrible things. Good flavor being expressed in that aspect. And here's the real kicker. Makto's Revenge never ends. So pretty clear what this means, but it can be a little tricky to understand by the way that Revenge works. So since Revenge puts your unit, when it dies, on the top 10 cards of your library, you get, and then it gives it Destiny, and it loses Revenge. However, in this case, what happens is Makto doesn't lose Revenge. It instead just gains Destiny. You draw it off the top of your deck, you play it again later on, and it still has Revenge, so if it dies, it just comes back again. It is a free card that plays itself for free out of your deck every single time. And like, if your deck somehow happens to be 0 cards, or like you're doing something crazy with just like a nonsense amount of like very, very small deck stuff, you can do some weird things with that. Like, I don't think Sporefolk is necessarily going to be an activator for this card, but if we see like a more dedicated mill archetype, you could do some cool things with Makto. That's a bit of an aside, though. I think overall the thing that really is important to focus on here is that Makto is very well statted for a flyer and has an ability that gives you an intense amount of extra stuff. Like, basically, this card is just always going to be good in the late game. It's another inevitable flyer, which means that you have an Argenport control card, similar to that the Skycrag card that we've seen, the 8/8 that has Aegis. Basically, any type of really, really big flyer that has some ability to just resist removal can be really strong in setting up control as an archetype in Eternal. And for people who are looking for better control decks, Inquisitor Makto is it. It's solid stuff. Yeah, so pretty cool stuff. It's like, this card is nuts. There's a lot of good things about it, just straight up from a Spike perspective. From a Johnny perspective, which is to say, okay, Spike and Johnny. Spike is the tournament player, the person who's like really looking for just big stats, but also like cards that can be played flexibly on curve and generally just are always reliable. Inquisitor Makto does that very well. For Johnny, like the person who wants to build decks and combos, this is amazing. Like, yeah, like Johnnies and Jennies everywhere will really, really like this setup, and like basically he's just got so many cool things that you can do with scheme, with all of the things that play with revenge cards. Like the smaller revenge cards are less exciting just because the value that you get out of them is not as strong, but with a card like Makto, like you not only get to do really fun things with him, but like it's just, he is unkillable. And that appeals, of course, to the final major demographic, the Timmies, the people who just like things to be awesome. And is this awesome? Yes, this is 100% awesome. This is maybe the most exciting legendary that they've shown so far. I'm blown away. I'm really delighted by that sort of meeting of mechanics and form. There have been some good legendaries. The two-headed dragon was really, really nice, but Makto Makto's unique. And Makto is something that you can't do that well in a like Magic type format. Like you could probably print a card that does this, but it wouldn't be nearly as impressive. And it's just one of those things where you can actually put a line of text like this on a card and just have it work. Like flying revenge never ends. That's really pretty. That's a really just fun, succinct way to put it. And that appeals to me from like a design perspective. That appeals to me from a gameplay perspective. I just really like that it is a card that just says the revenge never ends. So there aren't that many things that were like, I can't think of too many things right now that you want to do as far as combo Makto goes. The main ones are you want to really be digging into your deck. Obviously, this card does have good interactions with Crown of Possibilities, so it's always a fun one just because it redraws itself. It already has Destiny, so like every time it gets killed, it interacts very well with that, and obviously you're going to be trying to pull your cards from Crown of Possibilities deck with schemes and second sights, and just get this card out and draw it over and over again. So it becomes sort of the new World Pyre Phoenix, and does some cool things there. Other things that are pretty neat about it, like you can obviously do cool things with Oathbook, with Augmented Form, with anything that gives it extra stats and abilities. Augmented Form and Accelerated Evolution is another one. Anything that you buff onto Makto is going to come back and pay for itself later on, which is really useful. Argenport decks in particular have a lot of lifesteal in them, which means that they tend to see later games than other decks would, which means that they're more likely to draw these revenge cards. So if you're playing with a lot of lifesteal, you just generally have a bit more health, you stay alive a little bit longer against burn decks and the like. So like you have a better chance of digging in and getting to this deck. But generally, Argenport Control is a cool, strong archetype. You've got Harsh Rule, you've got Stray into Shadow, you have Death Strikes and all of the good purple removal, you have Vanquish, which is arguably the best non-purple removal, you have cards like Copperhall Bailiff, which shut down early aggression. Like there's a ton of cool Argenport Control stuff, and Inquisitor Makto just kind of stands at the top there and allows you to play some big beater that will just keep coming back, and all the time you're just going to be playing control. Like you're just sitting there with your Death Strikes, sitting there with your Annihilates, sitting there with your Suffocates, and killing everything that they've got, and then every once in a while you just put out a 5/5, and it doesn't cost you a card, it doesn't cost you power, it doesn't cost you any of your like timing for your fast spells. This card is just a control monster. You do have to protect it, but fortunately, green also has access to Protect. So that's not bad. Yeah, I think that like overall the main thing that's going to be kind of sad for Inquisitor Makto is that if he gets silenced, well, that's a pretty powerful ability that's been knocked off of you. But that's not a reason not to play a card. Like, there are a lot of dishonest, terrible things that you can do, and the more of them you stack up, the less silence is going to bother you. In addition, if you're not doing a bunch of dishonest, terrible things, you can just be running 4 Protects and Inquisitor Makto and be pretty happy with that result. Like, that's pretty fun. So, Argenport Control, definitely a thing. This card, excellent. This is just great. I am legit excited for Omens of the Past now. I hope that you guys are as well. Like, it's been amazing. To the YouTube folks, thank you for watching. Feel free to like or subscribe. To the Twitch folks, we might talk about Makto a little bit more, but I'm also going to get into some games. So, see you then.